What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to the Star Wars Exchange for another Bad Batch after show. It's been almost a year since we've covered the Bad Batch, but we're back for season 3, which is awesome. Great start to the season. So much to talk about. Three episodes, which I think is great. I think they should drop episodes in like chunks. I think it's so much better watching it like a movie. It's great. I thoroughly enjoyed these 3 episodes. Can't wait to talk about it today. But before we do, I'm as always joined with my co-host Mike. How you going this week, mate?
Hey, man. This is great. This is great to be back here talking about Bad Batch. I mean, I agree with you. I agree that they should drop them in batches like this. No pun intended.
Yeah.
Genuinely, this is great. It was a nice dose of Bad Batch. So yeah, I'm excited to be here. Can't believe like it just feels like we were talking about season 2, like the finale and all. But then we learned at Celebration that season 3 would be its last season for the show and all that, and you were kind of like, oh, what? I feel like 4 would have been good, and I'm like, no, this. I feel like after season 1, I absolutely love and everything, and yeah, it has its missteps, but I still love what they did with season 1. Season 2 is like up and down, and when it gets the highs, it's the highest of highs, and when it gets lows, it's the lowest of lows. Genuinely. So I did like a little mini marathon before getting here before season 3, and this show is great, and I think cutting it right here is good. It's great. I think it's at a pinnacle moment, and we're not like, you're not dragging out the story for 5 seasons long. It's sweet, short, and to the point, which I like.
Yeah, absolutely. And the more I think about it, the more it's starting to feel like a trilogy, and it's like
Yeah.
lining up so much with like the original trilogy,
Yep.
like season 1, and season 2, Empire Strikes Back, so on and so forth. To the point with where season 3, obviously spoilers if you haven't seen the episodes, we're talking spoilers for these first 3 episodes. Season 3, it starts with Omega's in like the equivalent of like Han, right? In Jabba's palace, but she's in Mount Tantus, and then pretty early into the season, she has already escaped. So
Right.
yeah, no, and then yeah, like if you look at the way season 2 ended, Omega getting captured, Han getting captured, same sort of vibe, and yeah, very similar vibe. Season 2 did feel a lot like Empire Strikes Back. Season 1 did feel a lot like A New Hope in ways. I'm not trying to force that comparison too much, but I think people know what I mean.
Yeah, for sure.
Anyway, let's just get right into it then. Talk about these 3 episodes. What were your overall thoughts on the premiere of Bad Batch season 3, Mike?
Gotta say, outstanding. Like this. One thing that I love about the show, and it's sometimes that this could never be kind of like a comfort show in the way that Rebels is, because it's just too. It's too. I don't know, like cold. It's too cinematic for me to just sit there and like use it as kind of like a therapeutic session that I would use like Rebels or sometimes Clone Wars, depending on the episodes. This is just so like sometimes could be cut and dry. And we saw that with the first episode of the batch that they dropped. Like that was so stellar. And that was one of the like best introductions we've gotten to a season. Like that was a great season opener with the first episode. I don't know the name of it, but it was just great. And the second one definitely felt like and I love that this 90-minute like kind of movie, it felt like the middle definitely felt like kind of like the lower point a bit, but they kind of like took a pause, but it was still good. And then third point was just the climax and fall in action. That was all great. I don't know, these episodes to me, I'm like, yeah, Bad Batch, when it's good, it's really good. And the first episode was just so good. It was just so dull and boring at times, but that was the point. And I'm not saying boring as I wasn't entertained. I was entertained the entire time, but it was just so boring for Omega to sit there and do all her chores, and we got to ride along with her, and like you hear the water like falling from the faucet, drip down from the faucet, and then we would go into her cycle again, and you knew what to expect. By the third time it came around, you were like, yes, what's her name? Uh, Emrika,
Emery?
Emery, Emery, yeah,
Yeah,
Emery.
yeah.
It's like, yeah, like I was saying it too. I'm like, good morning, Emery. It's like, oh my
Yeah.
god, it was
Oh,
so good. That was great. I love the structure that they followed for that episode. Definitely felt inspired. And the second episode
Mm.
just felt so kind of um it just felt like kind of like something that we would have got in season 2, but it was done like good. And it felt very connected to Hunter and Wrecker and to the overall clone story. So it just like rewatching all of Bad Batch in the past week, literally in a week, has been because one day I literally spent like the entire day watching like 10 episodes.
Mm.
I love this show. It's
Oh yeah.
proven it's proven its worth, and it's, I mean, the show could go like south from here and like just be terrible, but right now, what everything that they've given us, again, season 2, there's some episodes in there that I'm like, bleh, blah, just flat out blah. But all of this other stuff that they've given us is so good, and I can't express that enough. All the Camino stuff, all the clone stuff, like, God, so good. They could have made this some Rise of Skywalker, cloning stuff, boring. We're not going to explain to you, but they explain it. And it's just seriously all the credit to the creatives, because it's this show. I've told Ari this before. I've not used this in a show that I would call like a comfort show, in the sense that I will call Rebels a comfort show, but it's a comfort show because I love the sound design. I
Mm.
can put that on and just hear like just a minute of ASMR of like weapons and the way the clone troopers walk, and it's just Skywalker sound is amazing, and the sound mixes for the vines stuff in episode 2 was great, and even for
Yeah.
the animals in the third episode, that was amazing.
Yeah.
How many times have I said amazing so far? Like, I just love these 3 episodes so
Yeah.
well, and it's just like, like, I seriously wish um season 2 had a lot better episodes, because I would say like this is like just to the point. Bad Batch just, it's just so good. I don't know, it's
Mm.
I just feel all the like juices from all the love from the creatives and the voice actors. Like, if you watch Clone Wars and you watch D. Bradley Baker's like Crosshair in that arc, Crosshair kind of has his moments where he sounds like a Crosshair that we know from Bad Batch, but it sounds kind of monotone, not in the way that Crosshair sounds, but just like it doesn't sound like that Crosshair voice that we've come to like appreciate. And D. Bradley Baker just, as soon as we hear Crosshair, like, he's in it. Like, I don't know, like, he's just refined these voices for the episodes. Like, I could close my eyes and I could tell you when Hunter's talking. Obviously, we know when Wrecker's talking, but he's just done so well, and I just feel like the writing, even the animators, like, this is all impressive stuff. Nobody else in the animation industry is doing it like Lucasfilm is. I love when Star Wars, when the main focus is animation, because that's where
Mm.
me and you started out. You started
Yeah.
out with Rebels. I started out with Clone Wars, and we're here talking about Bad Batch, a spiritual sequel to both series. So I
Hmm.
like, for real, like, this is just capping off to like a great start to the season. I really hope the rest of it like just is as great as this. But to finish up my monologue, A plus. That was amazing. What did you think?
Yeah, no, excuse me, I'm very, very similar feelings with you. Really, really enjoyed it. Just to talk about what you're saying with the middle episode, where it felt like, yeah, a little slower than the other two, I'd say, like, yeah, definitely, definitely agree. But at the same time, it was very necessary, like, and I think you'd agree with that. It's like we needed to. I feel like that episode was perfectly placed, even though like you could just watch episodes 1 and 3 back to back and not need to know anything else. Um, in terms of with Crosshair and Omega, I feel like it's necessary for the overall story for that episode to be there. And I thought it was great. Yeah, it was a little slower, but I loved checking in with Hunter and Wrecker and seeing what, like how is that dynamic changed, because the ship's gone from like 5 people on it, four adults and a kid, to just 2 adults. You know what I mean? Which is a completely different dynamic, obviously. And I love, Tech's goggles just like sitting there right on that mantle. I love that it looks like Hunter hasn't even touched like Omega's stuff. It's still just sitting there. Something that I thought was interesting was in like one of the final shots of season 2 is of like Omega's room, and the doll is sitting there and it's like upright and he's looking at it like, oh, I'm gonna get it back. And then in the new season they cut to it multiple times and it's sitting there all like floppy, like, hasn't been tied. I thought that was just a really nice, like, just the little details are just great. Um, So, I enjoyed that second episode, and I liked that they finally followed up with those cadets from the premiere. Thought that was great, like just every little thing. Like, I hate when movies or TV shows, like they'll float like something of interest to the audience and then just never touch on it again. Bad Batch is really like dotting all the I's, crossing all the T's, which is just awesome. So yeah, it's great to see. And I think just overall with these 3 episodes, I love that the story is connecting to the wider galaxy, but at the same time, it's staying so focused on on our main characters. You know what I mean? The story doesn't feel like it's like the story of the galaxy is taken over. The Emperor was in the 3rd episode, like the biggest figure, most powerful figure in the galaxy. Yet, and I loved all that stuff, and I was interested in all that stuff, but I'm still sitting there thinking, oh, like what's going on with Omega and Crosshair, and are they going to get, and Batcher, and like all this stuff. So it's just such a nice balance. Like it's just a perfectly struck balance, something that I think Rebels did really well, and I think that's being emulated here as well. Like I feel like Clone Wars, sometimes the overall huge story sometimes came before like the the deep story of the characters and that sort of stuff, which that's not a knock on Clone Wars, and overall Clone Wars is a great series, but I really noticed that in these 3 episodes. I think throughout Bad Batch has done that, but as the story's getting even grander, possibly connecting to Rise of Skywalker and all, and the Mandalorian and all that sort of stuff, I just love the way they handled the narrative. Like the story is so compelling to me. Like I honestly found some points at season 2, like you said, highs are so high, lows are so low. Like there are points. I remember when I was watching The Crossing. I know some people like that episode. It wasn't for me. I was sitting there watching it, just being like, oh man, like I was bored. I was genuinely so bored, man. All 3 episodes, I was sitting there like locked in, engaged. And every time the screen went to black for credits to roll, I could not believe the episode was over, because I was like, "Oh my god, already!" And that first episode went for almost half an hour, and it felt like 10 minutes. It's just such great storytelling, so good. Like I agree with everything you said, just about like just all the noises, the soundtracks, the voices, everything. And you're so right about D. Bradley Baker refining all the voices. That's so true, especially with Crosshair. Crosshair, I remember in the Clone Wars, I didn't like the way he was voiced. I thought it was tacky, and I think most people would agree that like that Clone Wars arc made them seem out to be like these huge, like just these like big expressions of
And
whatever.
stereotypes.
Yeah, stereotypes. That's what I'm looking for, which was fine. And that arc is what it is. But, obviously Bad Batch has done such a good job at turning them into people. And yeah, that really has come through with D. Bradley Baker's voice for Crosshair. I absolutely love it. It's every time I hear him, I just think, oh man, like what's next? And yeah, it's fantastic. I like similar. I didn't rewatch the whole show. I rewatched a few a few episodes. I watched the final 2 of season 2. I watched the Solitary Clone, the Outpost, like just to get me in the mood. And like man, like the quality is just like of those sorts of episodes was just immediately picked up straight away in season 3. So yeah, and I love that. Like I want to know more. I want like when that box opened and the Emperor's looking in it, I wanted to be, oh my god, just show us what's in there. But I like that they're slowly answering questions. We're only 3 episodes into a 15 episode season. So man, overall, just so great, so great. I'm really loving it. But yeah, any thoughts on my thoughts, Mike?
2 things. First, I love what you said about the show's perspective, right? Because Clone Wars, we do get that overall, like we're really focusing on the era, and that's what's guiding us through the show. Is we'll give you different perspectives, but we're moving the era along as we go closer to the into the birth of the Empire and the fall of the Jedi. What I love about Rebels, and sometimes the most thing that frustrated me about Rebels, was that it teased so much what's going on in this time period. We wanted all the questions. How did the Rebel Alliance start? What is Luke Skywalker doing? And it like slowly, pieced and showed us some things. But the frustrating thing for me was you didn't allow yourself to be carried in like pivotal moments that could have like really helped out the story when it came to kind of like growing with the era. It was kind of more character focused, and I love that. I appreciate that, but I just always, there's some part of me that wish there's a balance between that type of storytelling rather than the more grounded storytelling. But obviously love Rebels to the end of the end of life and all that. But I just frustratingly, like, I'm like, I want to see the battle of Scarif. I want to see the ghost perspective. I want to see this. I want to see that. There's things I want to see. I wanted to, see, other stuff in Rebels that eventually we saw in the era and whatever. But I just really want to see some background aspects, some era type stuff. I want to go to Coruscant one day and spend it with the Emperor and see how he was, but that's not the type of show it was. Bad Batch, though, exactly what you said. I mean, like, for me, like, this show perfectly balances the two. Like, in season 2, that one great episode that we get with Senator Chuchi, and it's just her, and it's just her. There's no Bad Batch. It's just her, and it is a stellar episode. Stellar, though it felt like a good classic Clone Wars, but just a modern take on it with, like, the dialogue was so good. The action was great. The suspense was great. The music from the Kiner family was amazing. I love that, like, upbeat kind of thriller type it had. It was a political thriller of anything type of show or episode. Loved it. The next episode, the Bad Batch comes in and does, their typical, like, action stuff, but it was still so good. And still that moment where Senator Chuchi goes, like, has her Finn moment that Finn has in that deleted scene from Last Jedi, like, you shut down Starkiller shields. Like, she has that moment where it's like, you destroy the Kaminoan cities. Like, oh, so good. Like, it, just watched that episode again yesterday, and the chills that I get through that is just amazing. Second point I want to make is, what was it? You said I was gonna write it down, but I forgot. It was one of your final thoughts. I know I'll look back at this and be like, wow, I remember. But
Was it about
like,
the questions slowly being answered?
yes,
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yes, 100%. I love that the show, from the get-go, from episode 1 of the show of the Bad Batch, when I think it was the episode called Aftermath, season 1, episode 1.
Yeah.
Immediately, like, I'm like, oh god, they're gonna make this a J.J. Abrams mystery box where we're gonna be guessing to the end what type of, what's Omega's mysterious origins. But then they answered it in the episode, like, nope, there's some mystery to her, but she's a clone. And then later on in the season, it was said that she was, like, basically a carbon copy of Boba Fett, an unaltered clone, but except she's a female. She's the other chromosome or something. Like, I'm like, that's Boba Fett's sister. Like, you just slowly get things out from her character. And same with the cloning stuff, where we've been learning lots of bits and pieces, not all at once, which I like. It's just like that slowly tease, but it's stuff that, like, genuinely matters, and it's not something that we're not caring about, where it's like, why do we care about this again? Like, I think we're all genuinely interested in the cloning process. Palpatine's what Palpatine wants to do with cloning, which obviously, it's trying to, I feel like, fix some of the questions Rise of Skywalker left us with. But I mean, honestly, Attack of the Clones did the same thing. It left us with so many questions about, like, who, the what, how does the cloning work? And then Clone Wars comes in a decade later, odd some years, and answers all those in season 6 when they do that clone arc episode, or about Order 66. Like, they answer a whole bunch of, Cypher DS did this, and the clone army, this is its true intention. So it's like, yeah, like, are they going in that direction? Sure, but I don't mind at all, because it's Palpatine. Palpatine always has a plan, and while J.J. Abrams and company didn't really think it through, and they're like, oh, we're gonna create the story, the Star Wars fans can fill in the gaps. Nah, like, Dave Filoni and company over here, Jennifer Corbett, Brad Rao, and Matt Mikovits doing the entire story and really filling in the pieces that don't feel cheap. I just have to say thank you. Like, genuinely, like, this is great lore type stuff, but it's also a good story, like, at the same time. Like, I care so much for Omega. Yesterday, when I watched the episode where she was saying bye to Tech, and Echo, on Coruscant, when Echo was gonna go join Rex. Echo was kind of unfazed by it. He's a soldier. He's said bye to so many of his people, and lost so many people, that he was just like, all right, Omega, like, keep up with your training. Omega was like, took it personally, and, like, my nostrils are flaring up right now, and that's meaning I want to cry, because I'm just like, this poor kid. Like, she even said it in one of these episodes that she was tired of being held in a cage, and, like, she's out there exploring, and she found her family and all that, and for it to be like ripped away from her in different ways. It's just like at the start I wasn't so sure about Omega, but in season 2, like I was like, yep, I love Omega. And then season 3, I'm like a big fan of Omega. Like I'm just like rooting for her all the way, you know? So
Yeah.
and she's earned her stripes, and I love that. Like
Oh,
she's not
definitely.
just you know, like Ezra had to earn his stripes eventually with fans, and say
Yeah.
so did Ahsoka. Like Omega is just up on that mantle.
Yeah, exactly. And just to add on to the question thing, I think like if you look at, you kept mentioning J.J. Abrams, and I find it so funny. Like if you think about that moment in The Force Awakens where Han asked Maz Kanata where she got Luke's lightsaber, and she goes, "A good question for another time." It's like how many questions in the sequel trilogy could that answer have been
Right.
given? And it's like, because it was a good question for another time. Well, we never even got the answer to it, so it's like, what was that all about? And
We're
I know,
still
yeah, the
waiting.
prequels did the same thing, and then lucky for that, the Clone Wars came along. Maybe the same thing will happen with the sequels, but yeah, that's sort of what I was hinting at when I was saying like I hate it when movies like set stuff up and then it doesn't really, like, you don't get that proper payoff. And the sequels, like, you know, whatever you want to say about them, that was just because it wasn't one vision. They didn't really know what they were going in. When they were going into it, they didn't really know how they're going to come out of it. Whereas Bad Batch, you just get the feel, and like you can pretty much confirm that, yeah, this is one vision, one story. Like I was just thinking the whole time I was watching the episodes, like, yeah, like it would have been nice to go on for another season or two. I can't expect this show to be long. It's not that I want it to be, I just more expected it to be. But I'm like, no, this is great. Like just one solid vision, one solid story. And I'm like, I just have such, I wrote on Instagram yesterday, I was like, this season just promises to have such a good finish. I feel like it just, if you look at the way it's been set up, like I just trust the creators so much. Just there's one sole creative vision. It's like, it's inspired storytelling. It's great. It's not just, you know, franchising, marketing, you know,
Right.
crap. It's just like, it is just a true story being told, which is so refreshing these days.
Yeah, and
Sorry, you
I
go.
just want to add on real quick. Jennifer Corbett, the producer of the show, she said that they were in a recent interview, I think it was on StarWars.com. She said that they were striving for 3 seasons. Like
Yeah,
this is not like, hey, like, you know, hey, Disney Plus, we kind of ran out of funds, you know, like, you know, look,
yeah,
Disney Plus coming to Lucasfilm store being like, look, the viewership's low, we got to can it, you know, you know, give it 2 years time, and then you guys could do another animated show, and this time do it about like, you know, do it about Ahsoka or something. It's not that. This is what they were rooting for, and they were like, we want to hit 3 seasons, and yeah, this is where our
yeah,
story. We want to tell our story in 3 different parts. So I'm just like, and we're there. How and they she even said it's so
yeah. They did
rare
it. Yeah,
for shows to get what they want, and it's so rare for people in the animation field to get the exact seasons that they want, because you know not a lot of people appreciate animation and all that. And she's like, we got our 3 seasons. So yeah, right on. I think for me, I knew that the show's maybe life or span wasn't going to be all that much, because it's a streaming show, and it's streaming is very different than cable TV,
true.
how we used
That's
to
true.
all,
Yeah.
you know. So I'm like, it's going to be short lived. And I was honestly thinking it might go for like 2 seasons. And when they said 3 seasons, I'm like, perfect, even more than I was expecting.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
right
Yeah, no,
on.
you're right. The streaming world does. I was sort of thinking that approach more with like Rebels, Clone Wars, where they're going on, you
Right,
know,
right.
to cable TV and stuff. But yeah, no, you're right. But yeah, no, credit to them. And I love that they just, that's what they wanted, that's what they get, and they get that, they just get a proper chance to show. Like if the show sucked, the show sucked, but at least they got the chance
Right.
to show what they want to do. But no, it's like they got the chance, and they're really taking it. And something I heard Pedro Pascal say about, I don't know if it was him or John Favreau, I don't want to misquote either of them, but someone involved in the Mandalorian creative team said that they want to make the Mandalorian until people get sick of it. And I really, really, really despise that, because
Yeah.
I'm like, no, mate, like plan your story and create it. I know John Favreau sort of made the Mandalorian without a long term plan, which might come back to bite the show. Who knows? But um, I'm like, don't make the show until people get sick of it, because you don't want to go out on a sour note. Like Bad Batch, that's why I'm saying it's promising to have a good finish, because they wanted to end it like this. This is what they wanted. It's what this was the creative vision. Don't make a show until people get sick of it, like, because then people forget about the show because they stop watching it when it ends. Like, you know. Anyway, one last thing as well. excuse me, with Omega, you're so right with her like earning her stripes. Like, see, I kind of had the same path as you. Season one, I was like, okay, like I just feel like we'd been here before with the Ahsoka and Ezra, so I was like,
Mhm.
well, I'll give her chance. I'm sure she'll come good, and that she did. This season, I loved. And let's get into talking about episode one. I absolutely loved. Probably one of my favorite bits in the episode was when she's crossing out all the days in a prison
Mhm.
cell. Reminded me so much of Rey in Force Awakens, but I know that's not the only movie ever to do that, but I'm just saying that's what I was thinking about. Um, and then I sort of just expected it to say, oh, she's been in there for 30 days, maybe she'll escape. And then it cuts, she's got a new hairstyle, new look, and it's more like 150 days it looks like. I was like, oh my goddamn. First of all, love the new character design. And I love that they actually um kept her in there for so long, because when the characters do meet, it's going to be like so much has happened. It's not it was like she was in prison for a day or two. It's sort of like Kanan in Star Wars Rebels. Not hey, not at all, but it's a different vibe. This is like no, like she was there. She was doing that routine days and days and days and days. So like she's gonna be changed when she's reunited with her brothers, if she is, which hopefully she will be. So I just absolutely love that, and they did such a good they did such a good job conveying that to us that time. It's hard to do in such a, like, when it's one episode. If they kept her in prison the whole season, we would know, oh wow, she's been in there forever. But just from that one episode, I go, oh wow, okay. That was immediately conveyed to me. And I just absolutely love this first episode. I've seen some people online say that it's a bit slow, whatever. I honestly thought it was great, because it
Really?
yeah, I know. I'll tell you about it later. But there's like it just set up like the disposition so well, just like everything that's going on. Yeah, it was just a great setup for the season, and I loved that sort of deeper look into Omega and Crosshair. I just really loved it. And also, I shout out Batcher. Loved that whole story. In previous seasons, I feel like they would have not done that very well, but I think we're seeing the creators and the writers sort of grow, and they really handled that whole
Yes.
story well, and had a great payoff when he was Omega's looking out the window, and the howler or whatever it was howling. I was like, oh man, it's such a great vibe, such a great vibe. Also, Mount Tantus, when they have like those wide shots of them, we see them all the time in the show.
Yeah.
So beautiful though. It's like an artwork. It's
The
fantastic.
the one that made me go, "Oh, like this is Mount Tantus," was the I'm telling you, the animators and the producers have just mastered this field that they're in, that this literally doesn't feel like kids programming anymore. Like it just feels like sophisticated television. Like I'm
Yeah,
sitting
yeah.
here being like, am I watching an HBO animated series? At many times I thought I was watching Andor because of the prison stuff and the music. Like it
Mm,
was just like synth like, and um the framing of those shots, like Mount Tantus when they were coming in with the shuttle, and it was like raining, storming, and I was
yeah,
like, oh my god, like this is so good. And there's another, it was a scene with Batcher when the patrol droid is walking by the cages, and like the camera like just starts out by like following the droid walking, and you just see its legs, and then it like does like to a wide shot of Omega and whatever, and I'm just like, oh my god, this is so good. Like it makes the experience all the more entertaining, and I'm just sitting there like amazed by all the visuals and what they've been able to do. So yeah, all the Mount Tantus stuff, like you said, we've seen it so many times, but
yeah.
it's just
It feels like we see that wide shot like 3 times an episode. You know what I mean?
I know,
Yeah,
but I'm just like, this is just great. Like and they've just like, I was so bored with the animation in season two. And some of the episodes where I even said on here, I'm like, I'm bored. They got to change up this like Clone Wars animation. I'm bored of it. Go back to like go to Rebels or something, or just make it more stylistic. I'm bored of this blocky type animation. But towards the end of season two, I'm just like, yeah, I love this animation again. And then obviously here, I'm just like, you're doing different stuff with it. You're not making it boring. You're not just having
yeah,
all these different looking things look standing next to each other. You're doing different cool things with the shots and everything. So yeah, right there with you.
definitely. And yeah, tell us, what did you think of the first episode?
You can't tell I kind of liked it. Well, I just to me, like you're talking about a future reunion with Omega and the Bad Batch, and I just want to cry like immediately. Like I've just so fallen in love with this character, and her theme is amazing. But Emery, is her sister, right? So it's just actually I was like on the edge of my seat to see the interactions, but the interactions were going to be between Nala Se and Omega. And Nala Se, like in Clone Wars, she sounded like she was sounding back in Clone Wars, like in the Malevolence arc when she's aboard that medical station. We must bring the troops to safety. I was she's but like that. I think that was just like weird voice acting or weird directions the actor was given. This time, it just sounded somber and scary and terrifying. Like we were on the edge of something horrible, and like she was just hiding something. It was bad. Like it was like great voice acting, but I was just like scared for whatever the environment was. Right. That was a terrifying performance. Like she just conveyed her things in a way that gave off like, yo, we should all be panicking right now. Like if Nala Se is not up in arms, like trying to fight like AZ about the clone surgery, like we gotta fight, you know. So anyways, I like love Nala Se in these episodes, and it just took me back to when we all hated Nala Se, right? We all hated her, and we're like, boo Nala Se, we hate her guts and whatever she did to Tup. But now we're all like,
The
I think
top.
we're
What about to fives, bro?
well, sorry, yeah, to fives. But I was thinking about the sorry, my mom was on the surgery. Yeah, rest in peace, fives. But it's like now we're all like kind of indifferent to Nala Se, or kind of being like, oh shoot, Nala Se, kind of.
Nah, I
I feel.
still hate her.
I mean, I don't blame, but I feel like everybody deserves a chance of redemption. So I'm just like, all right,
Except
you
Nala
can't
say.
accept Nala Se. But I mean, this first episode, I kept looking at the time because it just felt like it was going on forever, but in a good way. I never thought that I'm like, oh my god, is this episode almost over? But at the same time, I was like, is this episode almost over? Because I'm just like, we're covering a lot of ground here, with what's his name, Doctor Hemlock, with him and Omega and Nala Se. Like we were already getting into Nala Se and her disposing of Omega's blood work and everything, and same with Emery. There's some stuff there that we were being alluded to, and I love the shot where where Crosshair and Omega are like crossing in the or like are passing by each other in the hallways, and Omega's like staring at him, and he's just like I love that. And then the second time comes around, and he's just this. It's like if they use the same shot, which I know they didn't, but it's like if they use the same shot of Crosshair, just he's chained to the rhythm, and Omega was now like steady on, not looking at him, and I'm like, oh, is she becoming chained to the rhythm too? I just absolutely love what the first episode did with a lot of the visuals and the characters and all that, and yeah, I there's just so much like there's so much to like digest about the clone stuff and all, but like all the other stuff like I just loved, and I love the clone stuff, but just there's so much cool things to talk about, and we didn't see like Hunter in this episode or Wrecker, and I was just like, yep, keep it to Omega and Crosshair right now, which I read in the like little description they give, and I'm like, oh man, I was like, is this gonna be um Crosshair and Omega the entire time? Because I want to see what, and I, like I said, I love those two characters, but I'm like, I want to see what Wrecker's doing. I want to see what Echo's doing. I was just kind of anxious to get around, but I was just in it with these guys. This episode could have not been have opened better, and I am so grateful we did not do a repeat of last year.
Oh
Doing that
yeah,
crazy
that
treasure,
premiere was rough.
that was a rough premiere.
Yeah.
So having Aftermath be the start of the show, and now you got this one. I don't know what this one's called. Like these are some really solid premieres. I
Confined.
mean, I
Yeah.
wish season 2 was it called?
Confined.
Confined. Yeah.
Yeah.
This
I like
this
that
was
episode title as well. It's good.
this was great, and it was just so dull and gray and boring, but I was still
In the
100%
best way.
entertained.
Yeah.
But it was just so good, and Omega building the little Lola doll in straw broke my heart. And when they came and took it away, I was just, I have never hated Clone Commando so much in my life. I was like, give her back that doll. I was so angry. Like I was very upset. And I love the shot at the end of the episode when it goes to the like Lola straw thing, or even in the next episode, it goes to the actual Lola doll in episode 2. And it just feels like the episodes are very much connected because of the Lola imagery in the first episode with the hat and straw. But then you get the other side of it with the other characters, but you get the actual doll. Like it just feels very connected and poetic.
And it's like, I've seen people talk about online, and I so agree with, is like, it's a reminder that like, although Omega is like, you know, being very brave and adult, like that, you know, she's still a kid, you know what I mean? She's still, like, and I just think, again, everything is just so well thought out in this show. I just absolutely love it. And for me, some other little things I really loved in this first episode was just the Omega conversation with Crosshair. I just thought was great. Every time the characters were talking, it was great. Like, I mean, Crosshair says to Omega, if I had a chance to escape, I wouldn't wait for you. Just letting you know. And I was like, I thought that was great. But because he was trying to tell her, like, if you get a chance to escape, don't worry about me. Just go. You know what I mean? So it's like a weird way of like being like, this is what you got, like being like the dad that all the other bad batches are to her. You know, it was Crosshair's own way of doing that, which I thought was really interesting. Also, Crosshair getting his having like the tremor in his hand, which means like the one thing that makes Crosshair special, which is his sharp shooting, is looking like it's probably going to go away, which I love that they're doing that, because it's going to make Crosshair think about himself beyond being a soldier, you know what I mean? And what is that going to look like for him? So I thought that, I think that's going to be a very interesting storyline going forward. And we saw in episode 3, like he was trying to shoot at the commandos and he just couldn't. He was getting frustrated. So I'm feeling like that, man, Crosshair is like I always say like a character's like a lemon, you got to squeeze it, you know, and then sometimes like they overdo it and then you start eating the lemon skin. It's like Crosshair is just like the biggest lemon of all time, because you can just endlessly squeeze just such great stories and just so much out of him. He's like, think of everything we've already gone through with Crosshair from the start of the show to now, and I'm like, man, and I think that is going to continue this season. He is just such a great character. I was talking to my brother about the other day. I was like, oh my, like Crosshair is just fantastic. What a character
he is. And I love him without that stupid gray hair on his head. I'm glad he shaved it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he looks awesome as well, like with the big like chunk taken out of his head as well. Like, I know it's grim, but still he looks dope. And I know, I liked the Nala Say destroying Omega Blood and how that tied into the last episode. And yeah, I'm sure we'll talk about that in a bit. But do you have any more thoughts on episode 1? Do you want to move to episode 2?
We can move to episode 2.
Yeah. So episode 2, everyone's favorite Bad Batch character is back. Roland from the Infested episode, the best Bad Batch episode. I got the most crazy Star Wars Rebels vibes just from him, like randomly reappearing. It's like it's like when every time Ez Morgan came back from Rebels, you're just like, oh, this again.
No, look, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. We don't share everything on the show. Ari and I have fought many times in our friendship. In our first fight, it was about Roland. About the episode Infested in season 1. And like we were genuinely arguing. It was me and him and our friend True, formerly Star Wars dude. And we were all like, it was just them two against me about it's a filler episode and this and that and this. And I'm like, guys, we don't know what the future holds for the characters.
Because this makes it worth it. This makes it worth it.
This could come back. We could look back at this episode and be like, you know what? It had a purpose. Just like that stupid Space Whale episode and Rebels. Okay. We were like, well, I mean, at least
chill.
At least I was.
That episode was not stupid.
It was stupid. Especially Kanan with a stupid hat and
my god,
just come on. I mean, it was still fun, but it was just stupid. And then you had that one on the cannon, just anyways.
I love the guy in that episode whose mouth is like this.
That's the guy I'm talking about.
love
talking about.
love that episode.
Oh,
Great episode.
please.
And the start where the heater's not working and they're all on the
Oh,
ghost, like,
God. Oh yeah, all of a sudden, like we're like we gotta turn everything off. No lights, the doors gotta close. Like we didn't
great
think to fuel
episode.
up. We didn't think to fuel up.
Great episode.
Whatever. But anyways, like it just gave me that type of vibe where it's like, yeah, like episode all not that great, but it came back to serve a purpose, and we needed to kind of experience that because the reason Hunter showed up at the front door of this place was because he had that pike, and that's the pike guy that we met in the episode and all that. It doesn't make the whole episode worth it? No, but it was it was not all for nothing. So I told you in Star Wars, dude. I said this episode will serve a purpose later in the future. We don't know when, but it will, and I was right. I just want to say that. I want to go back to you and me during that time. I think you're like 14 years old, and I was like, you know, yeah, obviously this was like 2-3 years ago, but 3 years ago this year. But I just want to say, I was right.
No,
I want to go back. I want to go back.
As soon as I saw it, I was just like, oh, because I knew I'd get some speech like this. But no, I mean, honestly, in all honesty, like I was laughing like in enjoyment because I was like, this is just the most classic Star Wars animation thing I've ever seen. Like I secretly loved it, but I was like, at the same time, oh my God.
Because you knew the speech was coming. So I was like,
well, I just like, it gave me just the most classic Star Wars animation vibes. Like I loved it. Secretly, don't tell anyone though. That's just between me and you and whoever listens to this. But anyway, yeah. So that was an interesting start to the episode. Not what I expected, but hey, it was good fun. And then get it. Like this episode was a bit it wasn't slow. It was just sort of like your more standard Bad Batch episode. But like I said at the start of this podcast, I just think it served its purpose really well. It showed us what's going on with Hunter and Wrecker. What's that dynamics like? I thought the cadets, I loved that they tied that storyline in, and I just thought it was a nice like this is the sort of Bad Batch episode I could just throw on in the background any day, just because it's sort of a comfort food type episode. And at the same time, though, like I said, it still serves the purpose, which is what matters with these episodes. You know, you can have these episodes, but they've got to be like this. And then by the end of the episode, it was just classic. They go in, the other two are like, oh, we should take the ship and fly away. But of course, they flew in, saved them, and then dropped a whole box of explosives into that Vine Rathtar looking weird thing. So, like I said at the start of this episode, just thought this was a solid one. I enjoyed it quite a bit. And what did you think?
Yeah. This episode kind of was hard to see at sometimes because it was like really dark and I kind of had a light on. So I was like, I don't know what's happening 100% of the time, but it was very much carried out by dialogue and everything. And those clone cadets, like I remember they were being like shuttled out of season 1, just to go back to season 1. Love the background stuff. Like, yes, you had the main stuff, like that one episode where we caught up with Gregor, and it's like, oh, we're meeting Gregor in this time period, and what is Gregor doing? And oh my God, this is a very important story. And then they would jump back for like 5 minutes on Camino and tell us what's going on back there to the overall story, right, of Bad Batch. And in one of those scenes, you see, the clone cadets, and what will happen to us now? You are being moved off the planet and you will be training somewhere else. Ari's not impressed. I've already annoyed Ari with my not the same impression.
That was fantastic. What are you talking about?
Thank you.
That was like my As Morgan impression, just spot on.
Please save us the embarrassment. Save yourself the embarrassment.
What do you mean? I do a great As Morgan impression.
Oh God.
All right, guys, if this video gets 10,000 likes, we'll post the As Morgan video and I'll just be As Morgan for 10 minutes. 10,000 likes.
And to that, and I'll add something else. We'll add
Mike will be Nala saying we'll be going, we'll be riffing
we'll
over
do a debate. We'll do a battle, and I'll just
Mike will be all like, well, and I'll be like, what? Honda.
we gotta Next time we do like a drinking episode, we gotta add that to that. We gotta add
Definitely.
some type of thing. Oh god, I would have been.
If you guys haven't already, you got to watch our Best Friends Challenge Star Wars Edition, as Morgan gets a lot of representation in that episode. If you want to, if you want to check that out.
Yes, he does.
But
Yeah.
anyway, back to what you were saying.
So the clones are being scuttled out of Camino and whatnot, and I like we all wondered. I'm like, well, I do, and I even made a post about this. I'm like, we do know that clones became purge troopers for a while, so it's like, okay, the ones we meet in Jedi Fallen Order, obviously those are not Jango Fett clone troopers, but we do know that clone troopers became, purge troopers and whatnot. So it's like, okay, there's an option. I could see some of them being, moved for some type of personnel services, like, moving stuff here and there. But I'm like, what really happens to them? And well, we learned this episode that, they experimented on or they, just displaced and all that. And it's like, oh my God. And it was so great to see a clone at this stage in their life, like teenagers, because we meet the little kids. These are like teenagers, and it's just like, oh my god, this is very different than what we meet in than what we've seen so far in Attack of the Clones and Clone Wars. And I even love that one of them, like the older one, was voiced by Daniel Logan, or a younger one, I guess. I don't know where on the scale, because the younger ones are voiced by Daniel Logan, so maybe I don't know how that works, but I think his name was Mott or something. He was, or Moz, and he was voice Mox is it Mox? Pretty sure Mox. He was voiced by Daniel Logan. I'm like, oh my god, Daniel Logan's in here. So we really got all the whole clone family up in here, which I thought was great. Because the clone cadets in Bad Batch, when we seen them in season 1, they were voiced by D. Bradley Baker, and that's how it is in Clone Wars when we have the clone cadet episode. Some of them are voiced by Daniel Logan, some of them are voiced by Daniel or D. Bradley Baker. I'm sorry. So anyways, just very cool to see what the clone cadets were up to and all that, and we just spent so much time with the younger type clones, or just a good amount of time to see what what they become. And that moment that Hunter was having a moment with one of the boys, and he was talking to them and being like, he just had that like cool one-on-one, like the heart-to-heart moment, and you even felt it. Like I felt that in my chest when they like then just gave each other a handshake of brotherhood and all that. And he was like, go make your own destiny, like go make your own path. And I really felt like Hunter was talking to himself, but he's like, but we're not done with our mission, because that's what he was trying to do this whole time. But they've been entangled in side quests and trying to pay off Sid, and they lost the plot, right? But he's telling the kids, go do that. And honestly, to be real here for a second, that's honestly what I do with a lot of I'm a teacher and whatever. That's what I do with a lot of the kids. Like that reminded me of how I tell some of the kids, because I'll be telling them like, make sure you turn in all your assignments in, or do this, do that, like, be a good person. It's like, I'm telling my younger self that, because I was not that. I was not a straight A student. I would get lazy. I would do this and that. And I'm just like, I'm speaking to my younger self. And that's what I think.
Kids better not listen to this.
but it's like no, I'm speaking from such a perspective, because it's like, I've been there. Like you have no better person to be telling you this, because I was there. I was at this school. I was here. I was telling you guys all this stuff. And that's exactly how Hunter is telling the boys. He was like, like, go make you're not a soldier anymore. You're not a trooper. Go find a life. Go forge your own path. And I was just like,
I loved that.
So good. That was so good.
Yeah, completely agree. No, fantastic. I completely forgot about that when I was writing my notes, but great moment. And man, I'm so interested to see how Pabu's going to play in all this. I feel like that was such an underrated episode in the last season, the Pabu episode. Really excited to see how that's going to play into the season. But let's talk about the final episode of the episode 3. And first of all, like I said, Return of the Jedi vibes are well and truly up. Literally the Emperor is, arriving to Mount Tantus. Almost forgot for a second. So yeah, could not be any more Return of the Jedi. I love that all the troopers were there and lined up. It was great vibes. And also love that Omega noticed straight away, like, what's going on today? Like, because of course she would know that she's been living the same life for 150 days doing the exact same thing. If one she notices one speck on the floor is different, then of course she's going to notice if all these troopers have shown up. So I thought that was cool. yeah, there's a lot to dissect on this episode. I'm going to sort of just like talk through all my thoughts, and then you just do the same and respond to whatever I say. So first of all, I like I said, I want to know what was in that testing tube with Palpatine. I'm just going to assume that's a Palpatine cloning thing. That just seems like what it is to me. I really want to see it, but I was like, all right, we're only 3 episodes in. Let's keep some mystery, see what is going on with that, because ultimately we know the Palpatine cloning pretty much fails. So I'm like, are we going to see like the Bad Batch or the clones are the reason it fails? Like, well, why is that? So like, let's see what happens there. Also, what is so special about Omega? So Nala is protecting her, destroying the blood, and then of course eventually the Emery, I keep forgetting her name. Emery tests the blood and sees there's something special about Omega. So what is that? People start saying, metachlorians. There was a lot of talks about of M counts in this episode. Is she what is needed to transfer a full metachlorian count into a clone that turns it into Palpatine? Like, is that what it is? Who knows? I'm just going to say right now, I really hope not. If that is what it is, I'll get used to it, but I really hope it's not that.
Mm-hmm.
I hope it's something like that none of us expect. And D. Bradley Baker, Michelle Ang, I believe is her name. They keep telling us that this season is great and it's not what you'll expect. So I'm like, please, like, give us something unexpected with that.
Jedi Omega.
Yeah, so I want to know what is going on with Omega, and all the M count stuff. Like, just is pointing towards, yep, this is going to be a Palpatine cloning thing. But I like that. Like, the animation is always doing the movie's dirty work. It's always filling in the blanks, always doing it, and that's why we love it, because it's perfect. It's so great. Anyway, I won't go on a whole tangent, but other things I loved, Omega and Crosshair working together was just fantastic to see. Like, that just felt like it was a long time coming, and yeah, it just warmed mine, and I'm sure everyone else's hearts just watching that. It was just fantastic. The howlers, I don't know if they're called howlers, but those creatures protecting Omega after the doctor gave this whole speech about weakness and how being close with them is making them weaker and you weaker, and they were going to kill Batcher just because Omega developed a connection with it, which made it sort of domestic, which made it weak, which meant, well, we can just kill you now. So it's like, no, like I don't really know if that's what they were getting at with that, but I love that when that giant creature thing was about to come and attack Omega and Crosshair, they were the ones that came in and saved it. I don't know if that's what they were getting at, but I thought that was great. So yeah, and final thing, real tiny detail, when Omega's escaping the facility and she gets into the elevator and the mouse droid tries to follow her into the elevator and she kicks it away. I just thought that was so great. Like, just random funny Star Wars thing.
Love that.
Yeah, those are but my overall thoughts on that episode. I really loved it. Like, just so many questions that were like half answered, you know what I mean? Or just teased at. And I'm like, yeah, I'm just loving it. So Mike, what were your thoughts on episode 3?
I think this was my favorite one because it was just the falling action out of everything, the climax of what we were watching, which felt great. So, and obviously could not have happened without the previous 2 episodes or even like just the first episode, but it really did. It served its purpose. Felt like the final act in the story for now, like of the introduction of the season. It was great. I mean, the thing from Palpatine, and Palpatine was evil, scary. Like, that was definitely frightening. Like, you couldn't, like, he was like, whatever you need, you will have it. Like, he is just on this. And they even said Project, let me see,
Necromancer.
Project Necromancer, and it was previously mentioned in The Mandalorian. So I kind of like how this is all kind of connected. I mean, Clone Wars came out, fixed the prequels. George Lucas wasn't really satisfied with the overall story he did for the prequels, like the background. Says, I want to develop even more and do Clone Wars, and Bad Batch just feels like, hey, let's just bring forward some of the flaws or stuff we haven't been able to get to yet from Clone Wars, and then also fix some stuff from Rise of Skywalker and answer those questions and make a whole story out of it. And I love it. Like, it's what you said, doing the dirty work of the movies. For me, there's so many moments that I loved in this episode, but yeah, Crosshair, Omega working together. I was just like, even that moment where it was just so small, but when Omega fell and like Crosshair, I thought they were gonna give us that moment of like, is Crosshair gonna leave her behind? Is he gonna help her? Because I was teased that, and I was like, oh, like I was like, no, like I already know he's gonna help her, just help her up, and he did, and she's like, thank you, and I was like, oh, so sweet. I was like doing the bare minimum, and we're over here like, yeah, Crosshair. But yeah, it was great. And same with that little mouse droid. I thought that was funny because I'm like, oh, here's a stupid, annoying mouse droid, and she kicked it out. That was great. That I love visual gags like that. And I gotta say, this Dr. Hemlock, crazy German scientist, like he's actually scary. I'm like, why are we gonna be scared of a scientist? He is the evil mad scientist that we all should be worried about. When he was in that section of the base where he was like in the war room and he was watching the whole escape play out, it was just so terrifying because I got this weird Thrawn vibe from him for a second, but I also got like Tarkin, I also got Vader. Like he just feels like all the villains together. And while he doesn't have a lightsaber and is not physically threatening, he's threatening. Like he was like the way he was interrogating Nala, say being like, oh, I have an inkling you had a helper, and she's like, I was by your side, and so sorry. I just had to. I'm sorry. And he was like, lock her in a cell. Like he didn't even give her a second chance. Like lock her in a cell. He's just terrifying, overall terrifying. And when he was in that war room and he walked around like the globe, the sphere of the planet, and he's like, once he learned like Omega was like special or her DNA was special, it's like pull back, like I don't you everyone off, call off the reinforcements. Like he was so quick with it. He was like put an end to it. And I was like, oh man, this guy's scary. And he's like, I have the Empire's resources at my fingertips. I can use it to my advancement or whatever he said. And I'm like, I was thinking all sorts of things. Inquisitors, Purge Troopers, I don't like what is he talking about? Vader himself. Like I'm like, whoa, like if Omega is on that type of tier of importance, like who are we calling? Especially if the Emperor just came to visit your project. Who are we calling? I think we're calling Inquisitors.
Yeah, who knows? Like
is Ventress gonna fight an Inquisitor? Like what's going on?
Oh man, I forgot Ventress is even going to be in this season. To be honest,
let me say this clearly because I think that's what I talked about in the trailer thing. Because I was surprised. I forgot she was even in this when I was doing my Bad Batch stuff because it is so out of the question. For me, Ventress is still dead. It doesn't register that she's in that trailer. I'm more excited about this clone story that we're getting all aspects. It feels like we're gonna reach the pinnacle of this clone rebellion. Excuse me, with talking about all these different type of clones. I'm looking forward to this Asajj Ventress stuff, but that's not the thing that's making me most excited about this season at all. Yeah. So just want to throw that out there. But yeah.
Definitely agree. And my final thought, you said how the Crosshair helping Omega is like doing the bare minimum, but we're all like, hooray. It's like because that's earned. And that's good storytelling right there. Yeah. They earned that moment. So yeah, all in all, fantastic stuff. Mike, if you want to just summarize your thoughts, say, a sentence or two, where are we going to from here, and give this 3-episode premiere a rating out of 10.
A stellar start to the season, to the last season of Bad Batch. This is exactly how you start off. If this was the last season and we started off like we did last season, I would have been like, I know why this show is ending. It's not because it's planned. It's because they got low viewership. I'm like, or they don't know what to write about anymore. They know exactly where this story is going. I'm so excited to see it through. This feels like a legacy show to Clone Wars, to Rebels, to everything the department of Lucasfilm Animation has done. This feels like it's just Lucasfilm Animation at its finest. The sound design, everything is just so great. To people that have turned off the Bad Batch since, like the first season or sometimes season 2, what are you doing? This is why you write out shows to the best of you can. Cause like we're literally watching Star Wars lore history right here, or just Star Wars history. Like this is just amazing storytelling. And from where we're going from here, I don't know. Like I have a couple guesses, but I love that we've only seen a little bit of the stuff from the season. I'm excited for all of it. And I would give this a rating out of 10, literally a 9.5 out of 10. This was great. Like I'm careful about who I give 9s to and all that. This was 9.5 out of 10, almost a 10, like for real.
Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah, for sure. Overall thoughts, just pretty much echo what you said. It was great. Great start, setting a great foundation for what's promising to be a fantastic finale to a pretty good show. So where to now? I'd say, honestly, I have no prediction besides that. I think it's going to be good. I think fans are going to enjoy it. I think, I'm just couldn't be more excited. I'm like, Ventress, how's she going to play into it? I don't know, but it's going to be great. I'm so excited. I've got very, very good faith in the creators and all that. My rating, I'm going to take it sort of lighter. I'm going to give it like somewhere between an 8 and an 8.5, like 8.25. Still loved it. Maybe I'm just a bit harsh with my ratings, but very, very solid opening. Can't wait for more. We're not exactly sure what our plan is going to be with broadcasting and all that sort of stuff, but we will definitely be covering the show whenever that is yet to be determined. But we will definitely be covering the show at various points. And hey, me and Mike are actually going to be watching the Bad Batch finale together, which is pretty awesome. So you'll have an in-person review of the finale, which you can all look forward to at the very least. But keen to keep talking about the show, keen to keep watching it. And make sure you give us a 5-star rating, subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow us on Instagram at the SW Exchange. Mike, where can everyone find you?
_Star Wars.
Hell yeah, go follow him and follow me at Star Wars _exchange. As always, thank you everyone for watching and listening and all your support. We really appreciate it. We will see you in the next episode. Until then, may the Force be with you always.